Hello everyone. Welcome back to another lecture on reasoning ability and problem solving. In today's lecture, we will discuss some exercises, questions from assumptions and statements. So let us begin. Now, in the previous lecture, we discussed that there are four types of problems that you can get in your competitive exams from this particular topic. In today's lecture, we will discuss the first two types, that is identifying assumption and strengthening and weakening arguments. And in the next lecture, we will discuss the other two types, that is type 3, course of action, which is also known as decision making, okay? And the type 4, which is statement and conclusions. So in today's one, we will first do type 1, that is identifying assumptions. We will do certain questions on this, and then we will do type 2, which is strengthening and weakening of arguments. Okay, so let us begin. Type 1 is identifying assumptions. So basically, we have to identify which assumption or inference will be correct. The direction is given. In each question below is given a statement. So we have a statement which is followed by two assumptions, 1 and 2. We have to consider the statements and the following assumptions and decide which of the assumptions is implicit in the statement. So implicit means already present in the already present in the statement. Already present in the statement. So this is what we have to figure out. Okay. So let us start with question number 1. Question number 1, statement is given to us and two assumptions are given to us. Okay. Now, the statement says a nationalized bank issued an advertisement in the national dailies. So national dailies is, let's say it is a newspaper. Okay. It is a newspaper. So in a newspaper, they issued an advertisement asking the eligible candidates for applying for 100 posts of chartered accountants. So this is a statement. So a nationalized bank is there that have issued an advertisement in a newspaper, and they're asking that we have 100 posts for chartered accountants and whoever is eligible can apply. Okay. First assumption is the eligible chartered accountants may respond to the advertisement. So this is obviously correct assumption. If we are putting out a notice, okay, if we are putting out a advertisement or a notice or a warning, correct, or let's say or an invitation also, okay, all these things, whenever we put out such things, what is the intention? The intention is that people will read this, people will take notice, and people will read this. That is how people will reply to this. So any advertisement, notice, warning, invitation, we assume that people will react to this, people will respond to this. So whenever we send out an invitation or an advertisement, we assume that people will take notice of it, right? So the eligible chartered accountants may respond to the advertisement. This is a correct assumption, right? This is a correct assumption. Assumption number 2 says there may be adequate number of eligible chartered accountants who may want to join a nationalized bank. So obviously this is also correct assumption. See, if we have put out a post for 100 chartered accountants, right, we have put out an advertisement saying that we have 100 empty positions, so we are expecting that there will be sufficient number of people applying for that number of positions. That is why, that is the whole reason for giving out an advertisement, right? So we may assume that we have adequate number of people who would want to join a nationalized bank. That is the entire reason we are giving out an advertisement. So both the assumptions will be correct, both the assumptions will be implicit in nature. So let us look at the options. Option number 1 says only assumption 1 is implicit. Option number 2 says if only assumption 2 is implicit. Option 3 says if either 1 or 2 is implicit, and 4 says if both are implicit. So both of them are implicit in nature. Option number 4 will be the correct answer. Okay. Question number 2. Question number 2, there is a statement. The question is which of the following can be possible assumption in the above statement. So in the next slide, we are given 4 options. We have to identify which of the assumptions is correct for this particular statement. Okay. The constable has been recommended for a suitable reward by his superior in recognition of his sincere duty and busting of several gangs of criminal activity involved in the loot and incidents of pickpocketing. So, what has happened in the statement? It is written that there is a senior official who has basically recommended a constable for a reward based on his sincere duty. So, the constable has done some good work. He has been very sincere with his duty. He has busted several gangs of criminals. He has take notice and has helped in the cases of loot and incidents of pickpocketing. So, this constable has done tremendous work. So, his superior has basically recommended him for a reward. This is the whole gist or the whole summary of the statement, right? Let us look at the assumptions. First says the superior is certain that the recommendation would be denied. This is again an extreme statement. Why would a person recommend someone if they are sure that their recommendation will not be considered? This is an extreme statement, so this cannot be a correct assumption. Rewards recognizing the sincerity of accomplishment of policemen are given. Definitely, this is a correct assumption because, see, if somebody is recommending somebody's name for a reward, that means that reward will be given. If not to him, to somebody else, but that reward will be given. So, rewards that recognize the sincerity of policemen are given. This is a correct assumption. Let us move forward. Third one says the constable desires to be monetarily compensated for his efforts. Monetarily compensated, again, this is an extreme statement or a vague statement. We don't know the nature of motivation for the constable. The superior, the information that is given to us is that the superior has recommended the name of the constable. So, whatever the constable's motive has been to do good work is not known to us. So, to say that his desire is to be monetarily compensated is incorrect. So, this is not a correct assumption. Fourth one says the superior wants to set an example for his other juniors by recommending the reward. Again, this is an extreme statement or unnecessary statement. We do not know the motive behind the superior or the constable. It is not given to us in the statement. So, we cannot assume this. So, the correct answer will be option number 2. Option number 2 is the only statement that we can assume. So, this will be the correct assumption. Okay, question number 3. Statement is given to us. We have to identify which of the following assumptions may be derived. So, in the next slide, we have 4 assumptions and we have to mark which one will be implicit. So, the statement that is given to us is unlike other retail outlets where items are purchased in any number of units, the customer wants in supermarkets items are grouped in bulk packages. So, it is saying that retail outlets we buy them in any number of units as per our convenience, whereas in supermarkets they are grouped in bulk. Okay, this bulk buying offers saving to the customers. Obviously, if you buy things on bulk, they are cheaper to you. The option to buy at wholesale prices by buying in bulk makes supermarket a practical choice for budget conscious consumers. So obviously some people who have a budget, they want to save some money, they will go for bulk buying because it will give them great offers, right? It will give them great offers. So this is the entire gist of the statement. Now let us look at the options. Option number 1 says supermarkets often have greater buying power and lower overhead costs, so they can offer a greater variety of products than regular retail outlets. Now, when you look at the statement, it looks correct. But in comparison to the original statement, it was not mentioned as to why the pricing of supermarkets is lower. What is the reason behind the offers that the supermarkets provide? So, to say that they have greater buying power and lower overhead cost, we cannot assume this based on the statement. This may or may not be correct. That is a secondary point. But we cannot assume anything about the cost of the products. How we arrive at a certain cost for the product based on these statements. So, this is not a correct assumption. Right? Second one. The second one says the financial savings from purchasing bulk packages may outweigh the inconvenience of being able to purchase in any number of units that suits the customer's need. So, in the statement, it was written that the supermarket is a great option of people who want to save certain money, of people who are budget conscious, right? This particular statement says that the people who buys from supermarket have certain financial savings, and for them, for the consumers, these savings are more important than the inconvenience of being unable to purchase in any number of units, because in bulk you have to buy in packages, you have to buy in fixed numbers. For these customers, savings is more important than being able to buy any number of units. So definitely this is a correct assumption, because only if this is true, then only people will buy from the supermarket, because for them financial saving is more important than the number of units that they are buying. Correct? Financial saving is more important than the convenience of number of units they are buying. Only then they will buy from the supermarket. So this is a correct assumption. Third one says, the emergence of supermarkets have caused many small retail stores to close down. Again, close down and thus eliminate competition. This is a vague statement. This is an extreme statement. Nothing like this is mentioned in the original statement. Therefore, not a correct assumption. Fourth one says, it is economically wise to buy single items since bulk packages seldom offer significant savings. This is actually very contradictory to the statement. This is contradictory. This is exact opposite of what is mentioned in the statement. So this is not the correct assumption. Answer will be option number 2. Option number 2 will be the correct assumption of this question. Okay. Question number 4. Question number 4 says, the increase in the number of newspaper articles exposed as fabrications. Fabrications means lies. So, the increase in the numbers of newspaper articles exposed as fabrications serves to bolster the contention that publishers are more interested in boosting circulation than in printing the truth. Even minor publications have staff to check such obvious fraud. So, what the statement is saying, that we have increasing number of newspaper articles that are false, that are publicating false news, and this shows that the primary concern of such newspapers are to boost their circulation rather than to provide the truth. So their main motivation is to increase circulation of their paper, to increase their profits, and not to print the truth. Because the reason is also given that even the minor publications, even small publication house, have staff that check such obvious frauds. So if such type of scam is being happened in big newspaper outlets, right, this means that the intention is only to provide false news. The intention is not correct. Okay, this is the gist of the statement. Now we have to look at which of the following may be the assumption of the given argument. So if I look at the assumptions, first one says, newspaper stories exposed as fabrications are a recent phenomena. Again, whether it is a recent phenomena or it is an old phenomena, it has nothing to do with the statement. So this is not a correct assumption. Second one says, everything a newspaper print must be factually verifiable. This is actually a correct assumption. See, it is mentioned in the statement that even a minor publication house, even a publication house that is not very famous, even they have staff to verify the news, to check whether the news is false or not. So if they are checking news articles, that means it is factually verifiable. If you are checking something, that means it is checkable, right? So this is a correct assumption. Third one says, fact checking is more comprehensive for minor publications than for major ones. Again, it is a vague statement. It may or may not be true, right? We cannot decipher this from the statement whether fact checking is easier or tougher for major publications. So this is not the correct assumption. Fourth one says, the publishers of newspapers are the people who decide what to print in their newspaper. Again, see, we do not know this, right? This is not mentioned in the statement, so this is also not a correct assumption. So answer will be option number 2. Option number 2 is the correct assumption. Okay? Question number 5. 5 says, farmers found using chemical fertilizers in the organic farming area of their farms would be heavily fined. So it is a warning for the farmers that are using chemical fertilizers even in the organic farming area, that they will be heavily fined. We have to find out which of the following statement is an assumption implicit in the given statement. So let us look at the assumptions. First one says, chemical fertilizers harm the crop. Now, this is a correct statement, right? This is a correct statement, but can we assume this from the above statement? This we know as a fact, okay? This we know as common sense. Chemical fertilizers are not good for us. This we know for a common sense fact. But is it mentioned in the statement? No. The statement does not mention whether chemical fertilizers are good or organic farming is good. That is not mentioned. So this cannot be the correct assumption. Second one says a farm's area for organic and chemical farming is different. Definitely, this is a correct assumption because in the question, it is in the statement, it is mentioned that people who are using chemical fertilizers in organic farming, they will be farmed, they will be fined. That means they are not supposed to use chemical fertilizers in organic farming. That means there are two separate farming methods. Organic farming and chemical farming are two separate farming methods. Therefore, the area will also be different. So, this can be assumed. Okay. Third one says farmers who do not use chemical fertilizers in the chemical farming area would be penalized as well. This is not mentioned in the statement, right? So, we cannot assume this. Anything that is not implicitly mentioned in the statement, we cannot assume. Fourth one says all farmers undertake both these kinds of farming, chemical as well as organic, in their farms. Again, we cannot assume this because there must be certain farmers who focus only on chemical farming and there must be certain farmers focusing only on organic farming. So this is not clear to us from the statement. So only two can be assumed. So answer will be option number 2. Okay. Question number 6. Statement and assumptions. Statement says the government should engage the army for rapid rehabilitation of people affected by the cyclone. So there is a cyclone and the government should engage the army to make sure that the people are rehabilitated in that area. Correct? Assumption number 1 says only the army can rehabilitate the people affected by the cyclone quickly. So again, I told you that whenever we use words like only, correct? This is a extreme word. Similarly, impossible. This is also a extreme word. So we avoid extreme words because there can be other people who can rehabilitate people affected by the cyclone. Only army will be able to do it is an extreme statement. Therefore, this cannot be a correct assumption. Second one is that the army can take up works other than war also. Definitely this is a correct assumption because if we are giving work like this, work like rehabilitation to army, they are doing work other than the war. So assumption 2 would be implicit. So if I look at the options, option number 4 says that assumption 2 is implicit. This will be the correct answer. Okay. Now, type 2, strengthening and weakening argument. So we have to identify which one will weaken the argument, undermine the argument, or which one will strengthen the argument. That means support the argument, right? Let us look at question number 1. Question number 1 says, prompted by a proposal to convert a shipyard into complex of condominiums with a full service marina and boat repair center, and by concern about the proposed from local residents, baymen and environmentalists, the town is considering a 1-year building moratorium for the waterfront area. Moratorium means they are stopping the work. They are basically, what they were doing is they were converting a shipyard. They were converting a shipyard into a condominiums with a full service marina. So they were sort of turning this into a marina and boat repair center. But now they have faced resistance from local residents, from baymen and environmentalists. Therefore, they are putting a 1-year stop. They are putting a 1-year moratorium. They are putting a 1-year stop. Okay. We have to identify which of the following, if true, would most seriously weaken the opposition to the complex. So we have to identify a statement by which we can say that we should not put a 1-year stop that would weaken the opposition to the complex. Okay, so let us look at these arguments. First one says the shipyard may be sold for another commercial use. So if the shipyard is sold for another commercial use, then what was the use of stopping it? If you are stopping certain thing, that means you don't want it to happen. You don't want the shipyard to be converted into a marina and boat center. But after stopping it, it is being sold for another commercial use. That is against the purpose of the moratorium. So this is an argument which will weaken the above statement. Okay, it will weaken the above statement. Second one says there is a large demand for boat repair services. So this will strengthen. So if there is large demand, why will you stop it, right? So this is in contradiction. A growing population results in closure of shellfish. This is not related. There are already 1200 moorings on the waterfront. This is also not related. So only option number 1 is, if true, this will weaken the decision of opposing the complex building. Therefore, answer will be option number 1. Okay. See, solution says if the shipyard is not covered into the proposed complex, it might be sold for another use, which would be more detrimental to the opposition's interest than the current plan. So, if you're stopping something to happen and the same thing happens in a different manner, what purpose does it serve? Therefore, first will weaken the argument. Question number 2. Question number 2. Before the arrival of Joe, a new partner, sales output in Bill's company, Midas and River Limited, this was the name of the company, had been rising by 10 per year on average. So, Joe is a person, and before he joined, the company's profit was rising, or the company's sales output was rising by 10% per year on average. Okay. Innovations by Joe included computerization of technical processes and reductions in the workforce. But annual sales output has only risen by 5% per year. So now, because after Joe's joining, so before Joe's joining, it was increasing by 10% per annum. After Joe's joining, it is increasing by only 5% per annum. And Joe has provided with computerization of technical processes. So Joe has bring in innovations, right? It is not like Joe has not bring in any innovations. Joe has bring in certain innovations. It appears that Joe's innovations have caused the reduction in the annual growth rate. So we have to identify which of the following, if true, would most seriously weaken the conclusion above. So we have to prove that it is not Joe's fault that the production has gone down, because we have to weaken the argument. So we have to prove that it is not Joe's fault that the production has gone down. So we have to look for a statement that says that it is not Joe's fault that the production has gone down. Okay. So let us start with option number 1. Option number 1 says the investment in new machinery entails a provision for depreciation of the cost of fixed assets, which causes a reduction in profit. This does not have anything to do with sales output. We are talking about sales output, right? We are talking about sales output. Therefore, this does not serve the process. This is a neutral statement. It does not strengthen the argument or weaken the argument. Second one says Midas and Rivers Limited does not base increase in selling price of its product with cost. Again, this is not related. Third one says Joe's innovations were intended as long-term investment and not made for short-term profit growth. Let us hold this. Let us look at the fourth one. General demand for the product manufactured by the company has declined. So we are talking about sales output, whether it is Joe's fault or not. If the demand has gone down, if the demand of the product has gone down, will the sales output be affected? Definitely. If there is no demand in the market altogether, whether Joe has provided certain innovations or not, that is secondary. Your product will not sell. There should be demand in the market. So option number 4 will be the correct answer, which would weaken the argument. Option number 4 will completely weaken the argument. So this will be the answer, that is option number 4. Okay, this will be the correct answer. Question number 3. Statement is given to us. Statement says the Captain Amarinder Singh led government in Punjab has announced free education for girls in government schools and colleges from nursery to PhD. So we have to identify which will strengthen, which will weaken. So the government of Punjab has basically announced free education for girls in government schools and colleges from nursery to PhD. The first one says good social welfare law. So it is saying that this law is good. It is initially for girls as they are comparatively disadvantaged. Hopefully, it will soon be followed by free education for everyone. So this is a very optimistic statement. So I can say this will strengthen. Right? This will strengthen. Second one says it is gender biased, as if poor or average person wants to educate his son for higher education, he has to pay higher bills. If you are introducing a law scheme, bills under no circumstances it should be not favor any particular gender if they are really concerned about education. See, this statement is a little extreme. This statement is a little extreme, because firstly, if free education is being provided to girls, it does not mean higher bills for boys. Okay. Secondly, to say that no law scheme bills should be, under no circumstances it should favor any particular gender, this is also incorrect. According to the need, we need to bring in certain laws and schemes to favor those who are in minority, those who are needing that extra push. So this is an extreme statement, right? This is an extreme statement. Let us look at the third one. The third one says, do not differentiate a poor or average person on gender. A poor boy or man should also get free education as well. See, this is also a correct argument. This is also a argument which is strengthening in nature. Because look at the language of the argument. This is basically saying that people who are poor should not be differentiated based on their gender. They should be also given free education. A boy or a man should also be given free education. So this statement is also strengthening the above saying. So if I look at the options, I can mark that option number 3, only 1 and 3 will be the correct answer, because both of these statements are strengthening in nature. Okay. Question number 4. Question number 4 says, nations do not compete with each other in the way corporations do. Which of the following most favors the weakness of the argument? So we have to say that no, nations and corporations work in a similar manner. This is what we have to prove. Because the statement says that nations do not compete with each other in the way corporations do. So we have to weaken it. That means we have to prove that nations and corporations are similar in nature. The first one says trade deficit is a sign of national strength, profit. Again, this is irrelevant. Trade deficit has nothing to do with this statement. So straight up incorrect. Second one says increase in human development index improves national standing. Increase in market share improves corporate standing. So again, this is vague in nature. How is human development index and market share comparable? They are not. So this is incorrect. Third one says climate change negotiations leads to global improvement. CSR initiatives led to image improvement. Again, these are not comparable with each other. Fourth one says nations go on war to capture territory. Corporates contend against each other to capture market share. This makes more sense because, see, look at the word. Both of them are trying to capture something. Both of them are trying to capture the weaker element. So nation wants to capture territories and corporates want to capture market share. So if this is true, this will completely weaken the argument. This will completely weaken the argument. So answer will be option number 4. So in this particular option, it says that aggressiveness to capture is a common way for both. So in this particular option, we can say that okay, nations and corporates are comparable to each other. Okay. So this concludes today's lecture. Thank you.